Welcome inside the Treehouse. Time to leave your worries outside. Join me, Dan O'Malley, Trey Trenholm, and Raj Sharma as we set out on our adventure to make your day just a little bit better. There's a good thing about this show, and this is something I truly believe. No matter if you're having a crap day or even a great day, coming inside this treehouse for just a little while will still make that day better. And if you don't believe, just ask the Christmas tree that just turned on as I said that.
That was amazing. I was like, am I seeing that? Because I'm just drinking water. But that was incredible.
I think we should take that as a sure sign.
Yeah.
That Jesus approves of what I just said.
Yeah, it's either that or the scorpion walked by and clipped the plug and is like, Merry Christmas, and then is coming towards you as we speak.
That also is possible. Yeah, I mean, it's. They do have those pinchers. They can probably grab cords and plug them in, unplug them, type of stuff. So, if you're curious as to what Raj is talking about and any sort of an adventure that I may or may not have had with a scorpion, then that is your clue to join the Treehouse Plus program, where for a mere $5 a month on patreon.com/treehouseonair, you can hear about my misadventure, where I go mano a mano with a scorpion. As much as I'd love to say that it involved a Arnold Schwarzenegger from the movie Commando style preparation scene where I'm smearing the black across my forearms and my face and I'm getting ready to take on an entire army. It's not nearly that cool, but we can all dream.
Yeah.
Hopefully it was mano a mano, because if it was mono a female and she was pregnant, then you got a bunch of little scorpions running around there.
That are probably under the tile.
Oh, Jesus. What are baby scorpions called? Because I know spider babies are spiderlings. That I know. I don't know if it's scorpionlings or
no,
what.
I think the term is asshole. I think that's what they're called.
It is possible. I don't know. I didn't take the time to ask. Hey, what are your children called? But I think it's safe to say that most offspring of most species at some point or another has been referred to as asshole. Certainly human.
But on the superhero side of my brain, like I imagine when you sprayed it with the stuff and then you left it outside, the chemicals combined with the sun and the air of the islands has turned it into one giant effing scorpion that knows where you live.
Are you trying to say that the scorpion that I had the encounter with may have joined with 4 other scorpions to create a scorpion Voltron?
Correct.
That is both terrifying and awesome. It gets me right into nostalgia.
Yeah. I was like, that's where he plans to sting you. Is right in the nostalgia.
Yeah. Ugh. God, I loved that show growing up. Voltron. Oh, that was so bad.
Oh, it was great. Yeah. And then what was the other one? That was with the guy who would had the little thing, and then he would become he would be huge and silver. He had the little that wasn't Voltron. That was the one with the animals that all turned into one. What was the Voltron was the ships. Well, there was that.
I thought you were talking about was it Gungan?
No. What was the one where he had the little clicker thing? It was like a little Japanese guy, and then he would be huge and in a silver suit with the. I have to look this up now. You guys carry on.
Hang on.
Voltron
Gungan's the species of Jar Jar Binks. That's terrible. Yeah, I know it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, Voltron was all the. Yeah, Voltron was all the animals, the tigers or the jaguars or whatever they were. They would form him. Voltron Beast King. What was the one?
You're saying it was a Voltron Beast King?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Ugh. Bing sucks.
Yes. Is that what you have to use on the island? Is Bing? That's what.
No,
That's what
it's my stupid computer's like first thing that it goes to. Gundam. That's what it's called. Does that not ring a bell to you, Raj?
No, it was. Hold on, I'll find it.
I'm guessing, Trey, you're just completely in the dark on this and wondering what sort of nerd anime thing we're talking about.
I vaguely remember Voltron. I remember G-Force.
Yeah.
That was where they had the little planes, I think, and then they formed the big one. I don't know.
Teamwork was a big theme running throughout the 80s. It's like, okay, we're all going to come together as one, kind of like Power Rangers did. Yeah, I think they did that as well. They became one big Power Ranger.
I don't remember.
Clearly, we're off into an area where we're not very knowledgeable.
If there's somebody listening that remembers what I'm talking about, but he was like it was a dude, and when he needed to fight off whatever he needed to fight off, he had the little clicker thing, and he would push down on it, and he would turn in this giant silver dude, like with a helmet. Like, I can't remember the name of it, but that was dope. I love that thing. Anyway.
Yeah, for some reason, I have no idea the one that you're talking about. If I saw it, I'd probably recognize it.
Yeah. Yeah, I if somebody's listening and remembers that, email me. Or whatever. Or email the show.
I feel like this has been like 7 minutes just absolutely wasted.
Now, so speaking of our age, but both in what we remember and what we don't.
Yeah, that actually is pretty accurate. It's like, hey, remember this thing when we were kids that was really cool? It's like, kind of, but not really. So some of us are going like, I know that thing that was cool. And then the rest of us are like, kind of, but I don't remember it. You're right. That's the sweet spot of aging out of things. I remember something cool from my youth, but not very well.
Something just fell in my place.
Raj, you okay? You're looking around looking for a scorpion.
Yeah. No, I'm the only one here, and something just fell. I'm like, that is weird. All right, maybe it's the spirit of the 1970s Japanese superhero I'm looking for.
Maybe it is. This segment of the Treehouse, maybe not so proudly, but it is brought to you by the Dallas Comedy Club, where this weekend you can see Miles Weber. That's Friday and Saturday, December 22nd and 23rd at the Dallas Comedy Club. For ticket info, go to dallas-comedyclub.com. That's dallas-comedyclub.com. The Dallas Comedy Club in Deep Ellum, your new home for funny in DFW. The Dallas Comedy Club. Thank you to them. So, yeah. Speaking of things making a resurgence, obviously our memories are not one of them, but while it's still fresh in Raj's brain, I saw that the other day you got a good look at the Von Erichs, because I guess you went to the AEW wrestling event the other day.
Yeah. I it's weird. It's one of those weird things how comedy works, and you get to be friends with people you got to watch growing up. And so I'm friends with a lot of these wrestlers, and they were in town. So I hit him up and I was like, hey, I'd like to come to the show. So we went, and it was also the big promo for it was the Von Erichs return to Dallas. And I was like, that's amazing. It was Kevin Von Erich and his sons, Marshall and Ross, that were coming back, and they did a little promo at the thing. It was behind the scenes. They just had it on the Jumbotron, but it was really cool to see them, back in Dallas. And at one point, they get approached by another wrestler, and they're like, "Hey, I have this three-way match tonight. So why don't you two guys, his two sons, why don't you team up with me, and we'll wrestle these guys?" And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great." And I didn't realize how much nostalgia was going to happen, right? And I knew it was going to be the first. There's two segments. One's called Dynamite. One's called Rampage. And it was Rampage, and the first set of three wrestlers come out. I can't remember. There's Jack Hager, and then I think it's Young Bucks that came out. And then Stranglehold by Ted Nugent starts playing, which was Kevin's old music from back in the day. And I literally got choked up. Because I grew up watching them, right? So I mean, we would go to the Sportatorium. Like, it was down like 15 minutes from the house. So we would go to the Sportatorium all the time, and it was there for the David Von Erich Memorial thing that they did at Texas Stadium was in both years, and his sons came out, Marshall and Ross, and it was just cool to see because it was Marshall, I think, is the oldest, I believe, and Ross is the youngest. It could be reversed, whatever. But it was really nice. Like he's a big, like Marshall's is a big dude. Like he's David Von Eyre. Most people don't realize this was like 6'7", 6'8".
Oh, Jesus.
And yeah, he was a big fella. And he came out, like they came out. It was very reminiscent of like back in the day. And it was just really neat to see like that, because just the tragedy of that family, and then to see them come back into the wrestling fold. And they said this time, I believe, I thought I heard Irving, Texas, but they used to be from Denton, Texas, is how they were
Last
brought
time
out.
I remember watching a documentary on them a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
Kevin was living in Hawaii and basically had
Yes.
distanced himself from all things wrestling. But I didn't, in that they did say show his two sons were wrestling.
Yeah.
I think they were like over in Japan or whatever. And he was
Yeah.
very, like, you could tell he wasn't thrilled about it, but he also knew it was in their blood and there really wasn't a lot he could do about it.
Yeah, I know that they sold their house in Hawaii, and I think they were going to sign with AEW full time, and that's going to be amazing if that happens.
Honestly, the timing couldn't be better because they've got the movie coming out soon called The Iron Claw, starring Zac Efron and some other folks. And when we were in town, Tara and I went and saw a movie, and they had the trailer for it before our main feature. And the trailer looks phenomenal.
Yes. They are like Oscar talk for Zac Efron. I believe he's Kevin. But yeah, it was the documentary that you're talking about. Like they sold their house. They're saying, I think, either Denton, Texas or Irving, Texas, but they're here now, and if they get with AEW, I thought it was the same thing, Dan. Like it may be just a part, like to coincide with the movie releasing on December 22nd, which even that would be great. But I will say, like, just watching them, like Marshall he's got it. Like the thing that had. Yeah, the thing that they had, that thing, whatever that thing is, he's got it.
Based on the movie trailer, it's abuse.
He's got it.
It's called abuse-fueled talent.
Well, they have a lot in common with the Jackson 5. So,
well, if you think about all those quote unquote great families, there's always almost always the dad. It's almost always, sometimes it might be a mom, but just almost always a dad who's pushing the family, whether it's like the Venus and Serena Williams, whether it's and their dad, or Tiger Woods' dad.
Yes.
The Von Erichs dad, the Jackson family. I mean, Jesus.
Kennedys.
I mean, all these great families.
The Kennedys, that's a nice one.
Joe Kennedy,
not wrong.
Yeah, I know. I would just never put them in the same. Like, I just can't see the Kennedys whooping the same ass as like Joe Jackson.
Sins of the father.
Well,
clearly, Raj, you've never gone to any prep school, New England prep school backyard wrestling events. Or maybe more accurately would be New England prep school pinochle battles.
Yeah, that's what I see. It's like, I don't understand. It's like, no caviar for you today, son. It's like, oh, I hate you, Dad. And Joe Jackson's like hitting a kid with a bass guitar, like because they messed up the words to a song. Like that's a different kind of abuse. But yeah, I mean that whole family, and it's just the tragedy, but the kid's got it, and then Ross, who's the other one, wants it. Like he's got he's got the size and the skill, but it's the charisma that comes with it. Like it's your eye immediately went to Marshall Von Erich, and they all put on a great show, and at the end, like there was a little tomfoolery and shenanigans that happened at the end, and that forced our man Kevin Von Erich to come out at the end, and they all three administered the vicious claw, and that was Yeah, that was just like the cool moment.
You mentioned getting
like,
chills earlier. Just hearing you say
Yeah.
that all three administered the Iron Claw, I actually got a chill
Yeah.
down my
So
spine.
Yeah.
does Marshall have you say the it factor? Like of the Von Erich, Kerry was the only one that really had the it factor as far as translating into national stardom.
Yes, he was the only one that was ever, even for WCCW, he was the only one that was the heavyweight champion out of all the brothers. And he's got it. He's got David's height, so he's like he's taller than his dad, so he's like 6'6" blonde hair, big, super athletic, wrestles barefoot, like his old man. And at one point there was a great, if you knew, you knew, like there was a little tribute kind of thing to all the brothers, right? So at one point, Marshall does the flying clothesline into the corner, which was Kevin's move. And he's fighting somebody else in the ring, and he does the discus punch, which was Kerry's closing move. And then at the end, they do the claw, which David was known to. Was like after Fritz, David was the first one to do it. And so it was kind of an homage. Like if you knew what was that, and like I again right there got choked up again. I was like, oh man, that was awesome to watch. And I felt really bad because it's a generational thing. Because when they announced the Von Erichs, like half the audience went bananas. And I remember the other half, I could hear like kids around us going, like, "Who's that?" And it's just because they've been gone for so long, and except for Kevin, everybody else is dead. So it is one of those things that I hope that this generation, like his two kids, bring that like popularity of what they contributed to this sport. Because say what you want to say, but that guy, I mean, WCCW out of Dallas, out of the Sportatorium, that dungy little whatever it was global. Like they went like worldwide. So, but yeah, it was just super cool to see that. I don't know if they'll ever do it again. I haven't seen them on any other lineups. They're going to be in Oklahoma City next week, so I might go watch that one. But the Von Erichs aren't listed on that one.
The thing it really just cracked me up about the old WCCW and the Sportatorium is you want to talk about something that you could not do today because it played on every racial stereotype.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was, and if you go back and watch the old footage, like just people like chain smoking while people are trying to wrestle. They're just like throwing beer on people and then ordering another one. There's like a guy who's just coming through with like a milk crate full of styrofoam cup beers, and people like the smoking. And then like the Von Erichs would come to the ring and women would like make out with them. Like I think it was not Mark Lawrence, but David Manning was the old referee, and they interviewed him, and he's like, they had more sex walking to the ring than I've ever had in my life.
I'm also surprised back in those days, and maybe they did, but I just didn't see it, that they didn't actually use the lit cigarettes in the ring, like to put it out in somebody's eyeball or something.
Yeah, so that's a different, like, I don't understand even the planning of wrestling. What do you have to, because I asked these guys, wrestling's fake. I'm like, okay, well, you take a barbed wire bat to the face and you tell me if it's fake or not. Like, they just know they're going to do it. And I've sat there before and I've talked to these guys and I'm like, so what's it like? He's like, oh, we just meet up in the afternoon. We go over the match, and I'm like, okay, so you're like, hey, so I'm going to kick you in the nuts at some point, and you're like, yeah, sounds good, and then I'm going to stab you in the head with a fork. It's like, all right, sounds good, all right, lunch? Like, how do you do? Like, what is the like? It's like, I wouldn't be surprised.
You're right. That's not typical office place water cooler talk.
Yeah, I'm sure there was people going, hey, so why don't you do this? Like, why don't you grab the guy's cigarette and then just jab it in my forehead? And then somebody had to go, okay, guys, we can't go that far. like you stick to the barbed wire and setting him on fire, but we can't actually just put a cigarette butt out on somebody.
And don't forget, that one of their big is they carried razor blades on and they would cut themselves. You go a lot of the old wrestlers, their foreheads, it looks like a UFC fighter's ear. I mean, they're just scar tissue.
Yeah. Well, I was at a match here for AEW like a year and a half ago, and my buddy Lance Archer was fighting John Moxley, and it was a barbed wire match. And there was barbed wire everywhere. And again, when I bring up the fork, at some point a fork just came out of John Moxley's boot and he started stabbing my buddy in the head. So I asked him the next day. I go,
wait, you said he pulled it out of his boot, right?
Yeah, pulled a fork.
Okay, for a second I thought you said blood. Okay.
No, that would be hilarious. But also, don't say that now because somebody's going to hear this and go to somebody in the AEW. He's like, pull out your butt, and they're like, sounds good. But he out of his boot and started. And I asked Lance, I was like, how did that conversation start? He just goes, Moxley walked in as I was lacing up my boots. He goes, I'm going to use this. And Lance goes, all right. And then he just walked out. Like he didn't say how. He didn't say what he was going to do.
It didn't sound like he was asking permission. He just says, I'm going to use this.
Yeah, and the best part was that we were at Bluefish having sushi, and I'm talking, and I forget people don't know what it. So he's done the same thing where he's cut himself repeatedly, and then there's just forks. I mean, just you can see where he's been stabbed in the head multiple times with a fork, and we're ordering sushi, and the guy who's taking our order just keeps staring at his head. And I go, and because we were laughing and cutting up and whatever, and I just look at him and go, "Hey man, you're bleeding from one of the fork stabs." And the guy and I said it out loud, and the guy just kind of looks at me like, "What the f did you guys get into before you guys got to Bluefish at the Galleria?"
You should have gone. That's why we're eating sushi because they can't trust him with forks.
Chopstick only meal.
You're listening to the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
You're in the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
This segment of the Treehouse is brought to you by Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration. 833-COOK-DFW for your free roof inspection. That's 833-COOK-DFW. The website, cookdfw.com. I just want it stated, it is not lost on me that our Treehouse resident wrestling expert is a first-generation Indian immigrant Hindu from Mesquite, Raj Sharma.
Yeah, my mom. Say the backstory to it real fast before I share my joy because I found something. My mom worked the ER overnight at a Mesquite Community Hospital. So instead of taking whenever the wrestlers got injured at the sportatorium, instead of taking them to Baylor, which was right across the street, all the fans would show up at Baylor, assuming they would be there to get checked up. They would take them to Mesquite Community. So my mom bandaged all these guys up. So she was literally known as the mean Indian lady because she was.
How was she not a character at the sportatorium making appearances?
Oh, she would have been so mad. She would have beat everybody with a shoe. There would have been nothing fake or planned about that. She would have whooped everybody's ass with her shoe. All 5'3", and I remember it was, again, it sounds weird, but Roddy Piper started doing stand up in LA at the same time I had moved. And so we would be at the Comedy Store and we got to be friends. And I was just like, hey, you came through and did that circuit. And I'm like, yeah. I go, did you ever, you got hurt and you had to go, did you ever go to Mesquite Community Hospital? He's like, yeah, a couple of times. Normally I would go to Baylor. And he liked it because he would sign autographs on the way and like his head's bleeding and he's just signing autographs.
Looks cool.
I go, did you ever meet because I've known a couple of wrestlers that were like the mean Indian lady. And then she's like, yes, she hated us. And I was like, yeah, that's my mom. So yeah, Dan, her favorite was David Von Erich. She's like, he was the most polite.
Dan, I would like to point out though in your intro of that our wrestling expert is first generation Indian Hindu, and all that makes it sound, and then you said from Mesquite, which then you go, yeah, okay, well, of course he would be a wrestling expert.
That's why I had to make sure to include it because all the things preceding it don't add up. But once you say from Mesquite, then everyone's like, now I get it. It makes sense. What that shows you is the power of Mesquite and the pull and the influence it can have on many a young children, including
my first job. My first job was at the Mesquite Rodeo. It was my first job.
You made it sound like Town East is like
concessions. I was you were. I don't know about the wrestling expert, but you two, my friends. I don't like to brag about certain things, but you guys are staring at the 4-time number 1 Frito pie salesman at the Mesquite Rodeo. 4 weeks in a row. your boy here sold the most Frito pies out of anybody in concessions.
Did that really take skill, selling Frito pie at the rodeo in Mesquite?
You know how hard it is to sell week-old chili? Yes, it was the same chili from the like. If we didn't finish it, we just put it back in the vat and into the freezer.
I just assumed it was the like the meat in the chili was from the bull that didn't do so well the week before.
I wouldn't be surprised, or the rider. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah, it was great. I sold the popcorn. When we would sell, our manager would go, if they come back, just give them their money. I'm like, is it that bad? They're like, yeah, you don't want to eat it. Like, it was just there. However long the season, like they popped that popcorn once, and then however long the season went, is how long those boxes stayed up there. And then the next year is when they would same cheese. Like if we didn't finish the nacho cheese, they poured it right back in the container, back in the freezer. And then it was the next week you had to set it out to thaw, and then you put it in the chafing dish and let it bubble. Yeah, but it's 4 weeks in a row.
Man, I really hope that they've made improvements since then.
I hope so as well. But I will tell you, they did give me a $25 gift card to Don Gay's Steakhouse. Let me tell you what that bought you back then. Not a goddamn thing. Didn't get you anything. Nothing. I think I got a glass of water. But I did get to meet Don Gay, which was hilarious because that was the first time I was taller than anybody.
I was about to say, I met him too. He's like 5'5".
Yeah, if that. I mean, 5'5" with his cowboy boots on. So you take off the 3-inch heels. It's like Prince. Was he 5'1" or was he 4'10"? Like let's be honest.
But Prince was technically a little person.
He technically was. Like, he wore 6-inch heels. And Don Gay, like, you're doing a great job selling Frito pies. I was like, is this what opportunity is this for you? There's no photo. I don't know what we're doing. Like, did word get back to you? Like, I don't know what it was, or it was like to boost morale. And I was just like, oh, I'm taller than this fella. All right. I felt like I was like, there's hope for me in the NFL yet. Like, if he's a champion bull rider, I'm playing for the Cowboys. Like, he gave me hope and a $25 gift card. That's what I got.
Oh God.
But to go back to the beginning of the segment, the beginning of the first segment, when I was talking about like giant dude, silver guy with the helmet, found him. It was his name is Kyodai Hero, which translate in Japanese to giant hero, or as we called him here, Ultraman.
Oh, I remember. Okay, yeah, I remember Ultraman. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the joint, man. That was the coolest thing back then. He had the little thing that he would click, and then he would turn into that guy. And I'm like, yeah, I found him. So just a sense of accomplishment.
Congratulations, Raj. You've
Thank you.
learned how to search the internet for something that you were trying to find out.
Do you know how hard it is when you just type in Japanese silver giant man? There's a lot of things that pop up.
It's a very brave search term that
yeah. And now I have to clear my history.
You've put out there in your history.
Yeah, and I got to clear my history. I don't want to die with that. Like, what was he looking at? He was into some weird stuff.
Yeah, what was the last thing he looked for? Oh God.
Yeah. Just start with Japanese, and you're in, already. It's like it's some pretty weird stuff.
Giant and silver Japanese. This guy was drinking. That's what that was. But yeah, I'm glad I found that.
Well, I'm glad that you can now rest easy. How about that?
Yes. Ultraman. Now I have to go back and watch episodes. That's how my brain works. Now I have to watch at least a couple episodes after we get done with this.
I'm real hesitant to go back and watch things from my youth that I haven't seen in a really long time because I'm afraid they won't hold up. Because I've done that before and I ended up disappointed. I've mentioned it before. Dukes of Hazzard is one of those classic examples where I loved that show as a kid, and then they started re-airing episodes of it on CMT back in the like 15, 20 years ago, and I watched a couple of episodes thinking like, oh, this is great, I'm gonna watch this, because this is before all the different streaming services and stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna go back and rewatch this. This is gonna be awesome. We have Roscoe and and Boss Hogg and the Duke Boys and even Coy and Vance during the contract dispute. It's going to be awesome. You get Daisy in the Jeep. And I go back and I went like 5 minutes into an episode and I am appalled. I'm like, this is awful. How did this ever make television in the first place? It's like, my God, the threshold for getting on TV in the 80s was apparently so low.
Yeah.
But that show just did not hold up. So I'm very cautious to go back and rewatch things to see if they actually hold up because of
I mean, I went back and I was like, let me watch Godzilla versus Mothra because I loved that one. That was one of my favorites. And I'm like, oh, you can see the wires. Like you can see the wires on Godzilla as he's flying through the air. I'm like, okay, that's whatever. But yeah,
and you can actually see a hole in the suit of Godzilla. You can see like the guy's toes sticking out. Yeah,
where he has to breathe. Like, but yeah, go back. Like, go watch Hee Haw. You want to talk about something that doesn't hold up? Oof. Like that was a tough one. I watched like 2 episodes and I was like, wow, that's like really sad, misogynistic, racist show.
Yeah. Hee Haw was bad then. I think that was kind of its formula.
I was it Buck Owens and God, what was the lady with the hat?
Minnie Pearl.
Minnie Pearl, yeah. I mean, I was my dad, my mom, dad
Roy
loved
Clark.
that show.
Roy Clark, man, absolutely.
That's right. They loved that show. And then I was like, I love the jokes when they would pop up in the cornfield and tell jokes. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a comic too. And then I watched it like literally. I think we watched a couple of episodes like maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. like I can't believe this was on the air.
Or perhaps your friends at the rodeo took you for a real adventure into a cornfield and you realized this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Is this stand up? This is not good. I want Don Gay. Yeah, but it was I worry about that too. But then again, you'll watch A Christmas Story every year, and that's
different because there has never been a gap. There hasn't been like a 20 or 30 year gap in those viewings of A Christmas Story.
There has to have been. You guys rented it every year then?
It was always on TV.
I don't think it was always on TV.
It always felt like it was. I mean, because I remember, because I think that movie. When did it first come out? Was it this? Well, it was early 80s that it first came out, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, since the inception of all the Turner networks, I believe it has been on the air every year.
Yeah. So I never felt without when it came to A Christmas Story.
Yeah. And Raj, I'm with you. That's a bad movie.
Yes. Thank you. That's why you've always been my favorite.
I do not get people's love of that movie.
It's a terrible movie. I'm like, even when I watch it, I'm like, my immigrant father could say Fragile. Like, Fragile, that's the dumb. Like, that was just dumb right there. I was like, and then I'm like, I hope he shoots that whole.
I have known people that would look at that box and they also would have said, Fragile, it must be Italian.
No, you don't. If you did, that's who traded you off in a Walmart parking lot. That's why. That's who you know. That's the only people I could think of.
I look. The whole point is me saying that they were not high quality individuals to understand the word fragile.
My dad was an English tutor in India, and he spelled tomorrow T-A-Marrow. And I'm like, how many people did you mess up? like how many people did you mess up? And he could say fragile. I'm like, come on, man. Yeah. And then I'm like, with the BB gun, I'm like, I hope he murders the whole family. And then he didn't. I'm like, this is a waste of a movie. Like, if you want to remake the movie, make it with today's weapons. like
Jesus.
Now that's A Christmas Story to remember.
It's a prepubescent war fever dream type of thing set against the backdrop of Christmas.
Okay, see now we're talking. Another movie we have to write.
So basically, you just want Die Hard, but with a kid.
Yes.
Or I was thinking Scarface with a Santa hat.
You're listening to The Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com. You're listening to the Treehouse. Visit us online at treehouseonair.com.
This segment of the Treehouse is brought to you by our friends at Brooks Plumbing. Brooks Plumbing. The phone number for any and all of your plumbing wants and needs is 214-368-3838. That's 214-368-3838. The website, brooksplumbingtexas.com. Speaking of Christmas and various goings on with it, there was a story I saw I wanted to throw at you gentlemen. If I can find the damn thing. There is, don't get distracted, but this did happen in Florida.
Okay, of course. We need to just have one segment that's all news stories from Florida.
I'm with you. You can actually do an entire episode of that weekly. Florida man got agitated by a neighborhood Christmas parade, so he fired off several gunshots.
Yeah. Nice.
Damn your cheer. See, this is the Hallmark movie that I think we all are craving.
Yes.
Like let's have a Hallmark movie where the big city girl comes to the country town in Florida, and that's the inciting incident of the film. Is she returns home and sees her old ex high school boyfriend shooting at the kids doing the Christmas parade in front of his house. Let them find love with that starting point.
Yeah, if you can make that work, you'll have no obstacles in your relationship. I'm positive
not.
of that.
A Florida man was arrested after he allegedly fired off several shots during a neighborhood Christmas parade because he became agitated at what parade goers were doing. That's according to deputies. Douglas Moore, 43, was arrested and charged with 6 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, reckless discharge of a firearm, and using a firearm while under the influence of alcohol after the incident that unfolded this past Saturday. According to an arrest statement from the Clay County Sheriff's Office, as the Middleburg Christmas Parade was underway, deputies and SWAT team members responded to the location along the parade route after several gunshots were heard. If you're curious, Middleburg is located about 30 miles southwest of Jacksonville, not far from where we were driving our van full of stuff. So I've seen where this man lives.
Yeah,
and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I've been to Jacksonville, and it is yeah.
It looked good on TV. You know, it's on the water there. It's got the pretty lights on the buildings and stuff, but it's
the stadium is beautiful. Yeah, and then you leave that area, and within minutes, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's one of those things that you got to keep in. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you got to keep in mind when it comes to to Florida in general. It, especially if you're flying over it at a low enough altitude, that's Florida. You get a really good idea of it. You see maybe a really kind of cool looking city from the air, but then you're reminded that right outside the city is a swamp.
Yeah. It's like this. It's like the I would say the governor Ron. It's like we're gonna give Jacksonville however much money this year for whatever projects that they need to do. How much they need? $1 billion. Cool. Give all of it except for $3 to the rest of the city. Like all of it to downtown and all of it to the upgrade, the upkeeping of the nice touristy parts, and then everybody else gets a nickel. Like that's what everybody gets. like just mail everybody a nickel. That's all we got to do. Yeah, it's and I just love the idea. I hope because six counts of aggravated assault. That's gonna be a long time in jail. And so I hope that he's there long enough to be in charge of the Christmas parade in jail.
I'm pretty sure a parade in jail is a very different parade than the ones we're used to seeing on television.
Trust me, he'll be more than agitated.
I believe that's called a train.
Okay, once you He's like, I'm the caboose. I'm like, there you go.
Somebody saw you as the little engine that could and did.
And we'll never forget. See? We managed to find a happy ending in this very sad story. It's a gift that we're all blessed with, and we share it with you inside the Treehouse. Coming up next time in the Treehouse, I believe we've got a football show that'll be on tap. Excited for that. And, of course, the Friday episode later on this week. So stay right here inside the Treehouse all week long.